And then we are going to flip this button, and we are live, fellas.
Hello to all of you amazing web slingers. Welcome to Livin On The Edge, the podcast all about our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. My name is Alec. I'm your host. You can follow me at the Alec Thorn on Twitter. You can follow our podcast on Twitter. We are at LOTE_podcast. You can follow On Comics Ground on Twitter, which is at On Comics Ground. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us here on Twitch. And you can, of course, check out our website where we post daily reviews and news about all things comics and pop culture. So, today is the big day that we have been building towards for the past 3 months, I think.
We're going on vacation!
We're going on vacation, yeah! So, today I am joined by, once again, James. Say hi, James.
What's up? Okay, no. Hi, I'm James Portis. I am the editor-in-chief of On Comics Ground. I'm here. I've been here for a while now, hanging out, talking about Spider-Man movies, and this is the ultimate episode, hanging out here, talking about this good stuff. I am excited to just take a sledgehammer and just beat the living crap out of Tony Stark's gravestone.
That's all. This isn't going to be a fair fight, but we'll roll with it. So you can follow James on Twitter. He is at JamesCPortis3. And returning after a long time, we are joined once again by Ian. Say hi, Ian.
I return.
That was great.
Yeah, thanks. I've been working on it. Yeah. So hi everyone. I apologize for being away. I feel bad. I missed out on the whole big building up to looking at every single Spider-Man film retrospective thing. But the fellow guests and other hosts that teamed up with Alec did a honestly much better job than I would have done on it. So.
Oh no! Don't say that.
No, cool, if you haven't caught those episodes, you should definitely go onto our either the Twitch archives or on YouTube.com/our On Comics Around channel there, and you can look up the previous episode podcast recordings for this show, Living on the Edge. There, I'm looking forward to shooting the shit about Spidey and about this latest entry in his film history. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at CalAldata.
Dope.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But hell yeah. So, how are you guys doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. Good.
Good.
Got me my orange soda like I'm Kel, so I'm pretty good.
Nice. I'm doing fine. I blanked for a second. That's my bad. But no, I'm doing good. Just trying to figure out stuff with moving into my apartment next month. Trying to get the bedroom that's furthest away from the living room so I don't bother anybody when I'm doing this podcast.
Oh.
So we'll see how that all turns out. But yeah. So, before we get to the juicy main event of the night, I want to talk real quick about one particular comic that came out this week, which is Amazing Spider-Man number 25. Now, this comic has been built up for a while, especially after the previous one. For those who don't know, in Nick Spencer's new run, he's been teasing this new villain, this new bandaged villain that has a bunch of centipede things on its back, and it looks very scary and demonic. And apparently they have control over Mysterio. They have control over Kingpin. So they're a big deal. And this last issue, which is issue 24, finally gave us confirmation of their nickname, which is Kindred. So after this issue, we assume, this one, which is issue 25, which has been hailed as like a big culmination of what's come so far. We think, so Peter and Kindred are going to have this big confrontation. We're going to see how they interact with one another. And it totally fucking wasn't that. And I am very, very tired. It's like, okay, as an issue of Spider-Man, it's great. Like
the Dan Hick backup story was hilarious.
Yeah. it has like a main story which goes back and forth between MJ saving the day and Peter saving the day, and it's great. It's really good stuff, but it does not like deliver on what the previous issue promised, and it doesn't look like we're going to see Kindred again for a while.
Oh,
So
great.
like all we only get like 2 scenes with Kindred. One where we find out, Mysterio is actually still alive, because at the end of the last issue, Kindred killed him, and it turns out Mysterio was just disguised his own therapist. So, yeah.
Make his own therapist think he was him in order to fake his death.
Yeah. So, like, that's one scene with Kindred. Kindred's, like, pissed at Mysterio and is getting him to do some stuff. And then at the end of the issue, we get this quote-unquote revelation where it's like Kindred has like rats crawl out of his arm, and like,
oh god,
he says like, I know I can't delay this any longer. You'll have to find out who I am soon, but I want to do it right. So the next time we meet will be through, and then dun one of your friends, and then we see he has this big wall of pictures of all different spider people. And now I'm just so goddamn scared that we're gonna have another multi-person spider event soon, and I am tired. I'm tired of this.
It's like I'm so tired.
Like
Yeah.
I was like this. I was like, holy shit, this is gonna be a new cool big villain for Peter. Like it's gonna be great. And then we see he's looking at this wall of all these spider people, and it's like,
no, I got it.
They haven't announced any crossovers for November. It's far too long for them to go between Carnage and the next event. So it's got to be that.
I figured it out. It's gonna be called. It's gonna be called. What was it? I lost it. I know. Fuck. What was it? It's Spider Anarchy. I just call it that and just be done. God. Like. Or like Spider Target or something stupid. That way, like it's gonna kill the spider people.
Yeah.
I can't think of a play on words for it, but I wanted to call it something stupid.
Now, like, with who Kindred is, like, we don't know yet. We get a sense that he or they, because my theory is it's not a he, is like that. Is that like Kindred is super close to Peter? Peter doesn't know it, because Kindred. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You sparked this idea in my head by saying this like a couple weeks ago. And now I'm just like, holy fucking shit. It makes so much sense that it could be Gwen.
Well, to be fair, and thankfully Ian's here for once for me to make my original reference. To be fair, like before Agents of Atlas was announced, I wanted it to be Silk. That way, it just stabbed Dan Slott in the gut for what he originally wanted to do.
Why would you do that to Robbie Thompson and Stacey Lee and Tana Ford? Though,
okay,
all the hard work
but see, the thing is, we all know that when Silk was first created, this isn't a big secret. When Silk was first created, she was supposed to be a sex doll for Peter. We know this. Dan Slott is an asshole. We know this for a fact. It's irrefutable. But then good creators took Silk and actually did something with her. But it would have been kind of cool if Nick Spencer wanted to get revenge and just make Silk like an enemy to ruin her from Dan Slott or make her a better character.
Harley Cooper is right over there.
Yeah, that's true. Like, do it with Harley Cooper. Do it with Carly. Do it with Gwen.
She has been showing up.
So if it's Carly, oh my god, that would be amazing.
She just showed up. She just showed up in this issue. So I mean,
if it's not Gwen, if it's Carly, I'd be okay with that.
It's either Gwen, Carly, or Jean DeWolf, because Kindred talks to Peter like a spurned lover who knew him before. Like, I'm serious. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. So it has to be somebody who had like an intimate relationship with Peter before.
What if it's like Exiles, where randomly in a different multiverse, Peter's gay and it's some random person?
Oh god!
It's Johnny Storm from the alternate Earth where they got married.
Oh my god, yes! Because in the Exiles, there was the one universe.
That's why he's wrapped up. He's badly burned.
like there was the one universe of like where in Exiles, Mary Jane Watson was Spider-Woman, and she was a lesbian. So like it would be really funny if like Johnny Storm just plot through the multiverse and wanted to get revenge on Peter for not loving him anymore.
Oh my god.
It's all payoff for that issue of Chip Zdarsky's Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man series, where after Spider-Man has that date with the that stand-up comedian on the top of the building, and Johnny shows up and just like, but I thought our date was today. He literally even uses the word DATE in the dialogue. I swear to God.
What I'm just like I don't know. Like Kindred could be anybody, but like I hope it's not a stupid reveal of somebody who's just so obvious, like it being Harry Osborn.
If it's Harry Osborn, I'm never reading a Spider-Man book ever again.
Like I'll literally scream if it's Harry or Norman. Like I'm done with them. Like I'm so fucking
Gabriel.
done with them.
Oh god, that was my theory. That was my theory of the Venom episode, that I wanted it to be the twins. I wanted it so bad.
Ugh, God, I'm just like it's been too long since we've had like a good new Spider-Man villain that becomes iconic, and I'm hoping that like.
Oh, real quick, hey, Last Line Joe, thanks for the follow.
Yeah, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you a lot. It means a lot.
It does, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just like, I'm hoping for the best, but like this is like my first real disappointment with Spencer's run. So I
thought Craven's son was the first disappointment.
No, that was fine because like the rest of the story was actually really good. But like that's I just felt like okay, that's kind of a lazy way to just have Craven still be around, but now not have character development and just like a blank slate again.
Just Spencer going out of his way to excise any potential future references to Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, which pisses me off.
Speaking of Far From Home, wasn't Dimitri supposed to be Craven?
No, Dimitri was supposed to be Chameleon. He was supposed to be Chameleon, but that could still happen. We don't know.
Yeah.
If Dimitri would have been Craven, I would have loved that. Oh my god, he looks so good.
But yeah, with all this being said, Amazing Spider-Man 25, it's a fine issue, but it's just like
it's the first issue with Patrick Gleason's art and interiors after he left DC and signed an exclusive with Marvel, and
now Young Justice art sucks.
He doesn't know that.
And now Young Justice art sucks, and I hate it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. All due respect to John Timms. I mean, I think issue 7's art, in terms of stuff that he's drawn for the book, was better, but
yes, I will agree.
It's not as good as Gleason stuff. No. Also, I find it kind of suspect that after working with Bendis on 2 different projects and only doing 2 issues of each, that not only did he have to leave both titles, but he then left the friggin' company and signed up an exclusive with another publisher.
All right. Well,
let's find it.
Yeah. So, I'm hoping things will get better. I hope this is just like a little bump in the road and things will get better. But then, like, one solicit for issue 29 says MJ makes a shocking decision that makes Peter get depressed. So now I'm just fucking scared Marvel's going to separate them again. But anyway, that's another discussion for another day.
About that time.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later. But so this is it. This is the end of the road for now, at least for another 2 years, probably, unless Sony yanks Spidey out of the MCU.
They wouldn't dare. This thing is already hitting 98 mil. They wouldn't dare.
Especially given the mid-credit scene, which we'll get into later. I'm pretty damn certain that they could not afford the public backlash to not do a third film.
Here's the thing. Sony doesn't care. Sony only cares what will give them money. In my book, at least. Sony will just cut something off prematurely if they see a better opportunity, quote unquote better opportunity somewhere. Better by their standards. But anyway.
Depends on how Morbius does anyway. Don't see him. People don't get Jared Leto money. Don't encourage him.
Morbius. Everyone's most anticipated movie of 2020 with the Craven
Tyrese, what are
Deli.
you doing?
Like, literally, it's like there's a Craven Deli, and there's a Silver Sable hair salon, and there's a Chameleon theater, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, what is this?
I'm just like, why the fuck do you have to do this to one of my favorite peripheral Spider characters by attaching him to one of the most piece of shit actors alive?
But anyway,
the MCU casting Craven as Johnny Depp next.
Don't say that, Ian. Don't say that.
Disney's done with them. Don't worry, I'm sure they won't.
But
Pirates 5 was
okay.
It's time. Money to justify that. So
okay. So, yes, do not see Morbius next year. But anyway, this is it. We have gotten to Far From Home finally. It came out on the blue moon a week ago. And it has already made like well over 600 million, which is good because Sony was saying, well, if it apparently, quote unquote, if it doesn't hit $1 billion, Sony's ending their deal, which is like it's gonna hit $1 billion, I think, but
Yeah.
But
it'll be fine.
There honestly isn't that
it'll be
like,
fine.
the only major other film release this month that might drag is going to be The Lion King, yeah, and like next month there's nothing. So
yeah,
people
we'll
who
see.
get a chance to see it this month will probably go and see it next month.
Yeah, but so Far From Home is now out. This is our spoiler discussion. So if you have not
is
seen
in
the movie,
spoiler is in the description. Like you know that this is a thing. Like, do not act like you don't know. If you you have had your warnings.
Yeah. If you don't care about spoilers, then
Hang
welcome.
out with us.
Like,
I look forward to there being 3 or 4 YouTube comments of saying, "Oh, they ain't doing spoilers. They should work for spoilers."
You can put like spoiler
the go live notification, that spoiler review in it. The title has spoiler review in it. Like you have been warned.
You have been warned. So, Far From Home. Where do we begin? So,
JB Smooth.
That's not a bad place to start, but so my first question for both of you, just like my first question, one of two, is what did you think of it as a movie?
Okay.
So,
want to tackle this first, James, or you want me to go first?
Ian, why don't you go first? Because I know I'm gonna rant enough in this episode as well. So
just as a movie.
Yeah, just as a movie. Go ahead. Ian.
Not a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's fine. I can remember, I admit as a person, especially, I'm a very kind of I can very easily get immersed in damn near anything, so that even kind of like films that in retrospect I wasn't as keen on, I'll leave the theater the first time I see them and, see them and still be, for the most part, pretty engaged with them and whatnot. I can really only think of a couple of films where I ended up leaving feeling outright disappointed or heartbroken or whatnot. Hobbit, Battle 5 Armies. Sorry, I'm gonna throw Hobbit Battle 5 Armies. But this is definitely not that. I will definitely upfront say that. However, and I feel bad because I do feel bad that just in terms of when the film, when this film had to come out, in terms of not just being in the shadow of other Spider-Man films or other MCU films, but just in general the fact that I think this past year, just from past year and a half or so, we've actually been really lucky to have a lot of really good superhero flicks and whatnot in theaters.
Yes.
At least a lot of them that I really enjoyed. So admittedly, it's a very high. The bar keeps getting raised higher and higher, sort of thing. But that being said, it still was an entertaining, enjoyable experience. There still is quite a bit I can recommend seeing this film for. But at the same time, I've left films, films being much more engaged with them. I'd probably say, in terms of films I've seen this year, and again, this is not me trying to, and this is gonna feel like a damning statement, and I don't want to take it that way. At least I don't want it to be taken that way necessarily. But every other film I've seen in theaters, between Detective Pikachu, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel, and
the other Captain Marvel.
Sorry?
The other Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, Shazam. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Shazam and X-Men Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix is the only film I left feeling more disappointed. Mind you, that's a whole other ball of wax that we're not here to get into. But
oh my god, that's a damn.
Yeah,
damn.
Yeah, I know.
I still haven't seen it yet.
You don't want to.
That's a Netflix movie, dude. That's a stay at home and
That's a sci-fi movie right there, like a sci-fi channel movie.
God.
But or at the very least, go onto YouTube and look up just the bits with Nightcrawler, much like with X-Men Apocalypse. But yeah, I really like the film, but this year I think has been pretty good to me in terms of films I've really enjoyed seeing in theaters. So admittedly, I feel like I wish I could praise it more, but I don't know if that's necessarily on the film or whether it's. I mean, I think it might partially be, but I think it's also just partially the amount of really good films that I've been lucky enough to see in theaters this year. I guess that's kind of how I feel about it anyway.
Okay. So, James.
Okay,
What do you,
I'm gonna keep this one brief because it's about just the movie. This is how I felt when I left the theater. This is how I felt when I got home. And this is how I feel now. This movie is, as one of my favorite YouTubers, Scott the Wall, says about E3, because a lot of the games he didn't like he didn't really care about. It's like it's fine. Just like Ian said, it's fine. It's harmless. Like it flowed well. There's a thing about the flow in the story that Alec and I know you and I disagree on. It flows very well through the entirety of it. It does what it needs to do. Like it fits with the MCU Spider-Man, not Spider-Man. So it does what it needs to do.
I'll also sorry, if you don't mind me something, I'll just also add that there definitely are scenes that are definitely worth seeing on the big screen. Like
Yes.
it's definitely worth paying the admission for it.
Yes.
Well, we'll get more into that later. Yeah.
Yeah. There. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of some of the story beats, but for what they do with it, it is very competent. It is very well written. It comes in, does its job, and I appreciate it for what it is. I may have my disagreements from a comic fan standpoint, but as a movie, I enjoyed it. Like, there wasn't a scene that I was ever bored in. There was I almost every scene except for the Ned and Betty shit that I hate. Like, everything else I laughed at. Every other beat that it needed to hit, I enjoyed. There was things that was good about. I needed to just throw those two into a space airlock and just
We're gonna disagree on that, unfortunately, James.
Hey babe, shut up!
Okay,
but yes,
it him doing something that wasn't him playing Gonk, so I appreciated it.
We'll get into that. Or at the very least,
playing Gonk to Peter.
Yeah.
We'll get into
that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But I give this a 6.5 out of 10. Because I give it to up to that point. Because as a movie it gets about an 8, but then my comic knowledge just knocks it down 2 pegs, like a 1.5 pegs, and goes, stay there. You don't get to be up here. It's definitely not the worst Marvel MCU movie I've seen. There have been worse ones like Ragnarok, but this movie is probably up there as one of the better MCU sequels. So yes.
Oof. Okay. So
yeah, I threw my shade. I did it.
No. It's good. It'll help the dynamic of the episode.
Okay.
So I am going to be the big white knight for this movie.
Go for it.
So.
I love it.
I saw it in IMAX, my first viewing. What I will say first is that I think it's a movie that requires at least 2 viewings to appreciate it completely. And I don't usually like saying that, 'cause it's if you should only need to see a movie once to know if you like it or not. True, but there is a lot of stuff you notice the second time around. There's a lot of stuff that I definitely noticed the second time around, or even I saw it 3 times.
Oh my god.
I need to, in order to get to analyze everything about it, to be okay, is this what I thought it was, or so on and so forth.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, there really isn't that much else in theaters right now.
Yeah, true. But there is a lot of stuff I noticed, especially once you know what the twist is. Which, I mean, of course, the twist is so fucking obvious. Anybody who knows comics, or even knows,
or sees a Spider-Man toy, you know what the twist is.
You know what
Mysterio
the twist is.
is the villain. Deal with it. It's obvious.
That's something I'm gonna get into with my own feelings on it. Is that as anyone who if you go into this film knowing fuck all about Mysterio and about Spider-Man comics in general, you'll probably enjoy the first act a lot more than anyone who goes into it with any sort of foreknowledge of that.
Yeah. As a movie, the first act really, really dragged, I think.
I need you to explain this to me because like you mentioned this in DMs and I didn't understand what you meant because I thought it flowed well. It had good pacing. Like, yeah, the little like amphitheater charity thing was kind of stupid, but like other than that, like everything hit the notes that it needed to.
Okay, where I'm coming from with this is that a lot of they went on record saying that there was a lot of shit they cut out from the first act that was shown in the trailers, like Peter going to Delmar's store in order to buy some stuff for the trip. Peter getting his passport. Peter selling all of his toys in order to get money for the trip. And that big scene in the restaurant where he's in the Iron Spider suit taking down a gang and someone who may or may not be Fancy Dan. That's what I saw on Twitter. Somebody said it could be Fancy Dan, but who knows? But
hashtag release the Watts cut.
Yeah.
Oh god.
They're releasing it as a short film on the Blu-ray, which I'm just like, oh god, like I don't know who to blame for this. Because it feels like a Sony thing. Because Sony has done this shit a lot. Where they show shit in trailers that doesn't end up in the movie and are just deleted scenes on the Blu-ray.
That's from like the third act.
Yeah.
First shot ever shown of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. So it's just like that like knowing that I guess bothered me more about the first act, but also just like some of the comedy in the first act just like really like didn't like some of it did well not just some of it, a lot of it did, but like there was just some moments where I'm just like, okay, that was unnecessary, that didn't get a laugh out of me. The scene on the bus and like the whole
bus was funny.
No, the whole thing from like when they get to Austria and then when like Brad takes a picture of Peter in his underwear and then like when Peter needs to delete the photo from Brad's phone and accidentally orders a drone strike on him, that to me is like, okay, that whole thing could have been reshot like completely in order to show, okay, this is Edith and this is how the drones work. Like this is what Edith does. Like I get why it was there because it needed to like fulfill that purpose, but it just did not like. I felt kind of like I didn't hate it completely. Some people have said like, oh, it's the worst scene in any Spider-Man movie, and I'm like, I wouldn't say that.
I thought it was pretty funny, to be honest.
Like
I remember the jazz scene from Spider-Man 3.
No, because it's a meme now. That means it's good, right?
Oh god.
Obviously.
But no, see, like I like that scene. Like, granted, the whole thing with blonde lady telling him to take his clothes off was really, really like annoying. Kind of like I'm gonna like skip over that other point. But like just it's weird and annoying and I didn't like it. And then this stupid kid that like apparently was young when everyone disappeared with the snap, and then now he's like 5 years older now. Like I'm just like, you annoy me. You're like Red Herring from Scooby-Doo, and I'm just like, why are you here? Go away! Like,
no, they had like the molting man thing. Why did they just make him actually just make him the molting man?
That was a theory. That was a theory, but like I almost thought that the lady, like before we saw like how clearly older she was than Tom Holland, I thought that was going to be Felicia Hardy, because that was a big rumor that Felicia Hardy was going to be.
I would have liked it if this kid was working for Mysterio the entire time. That's what I wanted it to be. Then he was just a dumbass kid, and I was like, bro, what?
But like. Yeah,
I don't mind that part, because that part, like, kind of like the high school shenanigans stuff with Peter, I don't mind it. Just the fact that they ultimately his whole subplot seems kind of more or less pointless in a way to me. Like, and I feel like I mean, like to an extent, like I almost feel like it almost feels kind of like bad to him, because like he ultimately, like, I mean, from his like that character's perspective, he's not really doing like, other than, I mean, like it is kind of creepy to us, but like he was just basically trying to do something. Or like, I don't know, like not so much the photo itself, because that was still kind of creepy and gross, but he was still ultimately, in the end, someone who didn't really, like, he didn't lie about anything at all. He didn't mislead anyone or anything like that, but he still ended up ultimately being punished for it, which, I know.
He was Mr. Stay Your Girl, and it was annoying.
The previous film deserved more punishment than karmic punishment.
Here's what I thought. I thought they were, like, setting up that he was actually going to be gay and he was going to have a crush on Peter. That's that's something, because it showed like him being super overly like, you know, watching Peter and like, you know, like always smiling at him. So I was like,
that wouldn't have been a bad
oh.
twist for why he kept on trying to hang out with MJ.
True.
But he
But
possibly
like,
thought that like MJ would be a good way to get to know him.
but like
True.
that's what I was worried, because I was worried like, oh, this is just going to be a gag and it's not going to work well and it's going to feel very stereotypical.
Mhm.
It wasn't that, so I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad we didn't get like a bad stereotype at least. But like I thought he was fine. It's just like that whole segment I didn't like. But what I will say is that once they got the prog, the movie went from like a 7 to like a solid 9 to me. No, not a 7, like a 6 to a solid 9 to me. Like, because I was watching, I'm like, okay, I'm having a kind of rough time getting into this. And then when we get, I guess maybe the Venice set piece too kind of like eased me into it more with Mysterio and Hydro Man, but not really Hydro Man.
Can I just?
But like once we get the prog,
Mhm.
the movie like just gets so much better, and that's when I just enjoyed it thoroughly from beginning to end. Now, what I will say,
like, in terms of
go
the
ahead.
Venice,
Yeah.
the Venice set piece. Okay, so Spider-Man for the PS4 released a couple new skins from the movie. I'm guessing it's solely because of spoilers that they didn't include this one though. But I really, really want Venetian Mask Peter and his civilian clothes skin for Spider-Man for the PS4. Yes, I love that look on him. It's ridiculous. I want to play the game as that.
That was something ripped out of like Ultimate Comic. I felt like it like I loved how stupid it was, because it just seemed like something Bendis would write for Ultimate.
Yeah, because it makes sense because he was credited in the movie.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say now is that as a Spider-Man movie, and y'all have probably heard me say this, I don't like the whole phrase that has been like thrown around now, which is like, it's a good movie but a bad Spider-Man movie. Like, I get the intention. Like, here's the thing, I get the intention behind it, but there are so many Spider-Man stories and so many different ones from what the movies before Homecoming have done.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's kind of an unfair thing as to what a Spider-Man movie is. Now, I totally get why some people feel like there wasn't enough good Spidey stuff in Homecoming, 100%. But as like I've read my fair share of Spidey comics, obviously. I mean, that goes up. Yeah,
I wouldn't have guessed.
I don't know. I would. Yeah, you know. They just made me the Spider-Man guy on the website because, you know, fuck it.
No, you're the expert. You know what you're talking about. That's what I like.
Expert's a strong word, but thank you. But no, I've read my fair share, and in Homecoming, there's enough stuff that reminded me of reading Ultimate Spider-Man, or, you know, Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane, which is a good one. And like a lot of other different comics I've read over the years. It's stuff that reminded me of reading those. And I will say what Far From Home did is like jack that feeling up by like a shit ton, for me at least.
See, for me,
yeah.
like I hate that statement only because like I agreed with the statement during Homecoming, but then once Infinity War hits, it became the realization for me, and it's going to go into my argument later when we talk about like different things, that this isn't Spider-Man anymore. This is MCU Spider-Man. And the reason why I say that specifically is because of the twist of the story of Mysterio being the bad guy and what his motives are. Is like, because the whole, this is the Earth 616. No, it's not. It's a lie. Like, the multiverse is a lie. This isn't 616. It's bullshit. Like,
it was so funny. It was so funny seeing everybody like freak out about that.
Like, it changed.
You're like, oh my god, how could Marvel do this? It's like, well, you know, Into the Spider-Verse did the exact same fucking thing, and you didn't say anything about that. But it's like, but MCU Spider-Man sucks. That's why it's bad. It's like, it's an Easter egg. Like,
yeah,
in the movie, it was an Easter egg.
Into the Spider-Verse was a fucking adult. That's my own issue with it. Whereas this for 616 Spider-Man within the MCU, he's a teenager, whilst
that's true. But my only criticism. That's true. But like, again, it's still an Easter egg. Yeah. But I just want to say it was funny seeing people lose their shit over that.
And then it was like debunked. So like it goes back to the point of this is a totally different Spider-Man with totally different rules. Now, granted, I have my arguments about it, which I will get into later, and like it'll be our little like debate here. but
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like we have to evaluate this movie on a different Richter scale than we do like Raimi or I hate it to death, like the amazing movies. Like
Mm-hmm.
like while I may hate them, I review them and feel differently about them than I do the MCU movies because of the elements that have gone into Holland's character. So
Mm-hmm.
that argument of it's a good movie but it's a good shut up, like it's stupid. To stop using that argument to validate your point that you don't like the MCU Spider-Man because it's different. Like this is a different ball game. Like we've known this is a different ball game ever since Hawkeye wore the ultimate Hawkeye suit, but then wasn't really Hawkeye. Like we've known this. So like, get your head out your ass and let's have a real conversation.
What I will say, my counter argument to like people who say, well, I've read all these I've read all these Spider-Man comics, and MCU Spider-Man is like doing something totally different from them. Like it's a terrible Spider-Man movie. It's like, okay, then what about Guardians of the Galaxy? Because they're so damn different from their comics.
Bendis' run, which, what do you know? Bendis happened to be one of the people who developed the original Guardians of the Galaxy film just before he started writing his Guardians of the Galaxy comic series.
But here's the thing: the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, in my opinion, at least, are so good that we just like kind of we let that stuff go. And I just feel like because Spider-Man is a much more popular character, that's why people have gotten more analytical about what's accurate and what's not. And me personally, I just like a good movie, and a good movie that gives me like the Spider-Man feels that I feel when reading the comics or watching the cartoons or even watching older movies too. Like I like seeing that shit. So this movie does it for me. I understand why it wouldn't do it for other people. Like I'd understand if some MCU movies that do stuff differently from the comics don't do it for other people. Like Civil War, for example, or Thor Ragnarok. Like James hates Thor Ragnarok, so I totally understand
people
why.
Would be pissed off that Captain America: Civil War didn't follow the original Civil War comic. That's
it's just like, I feel like it's because people hold Spider-Man more close to the chest. For good reason, I'd say. For good reason. Like, people hold him closer to the chest, so when stuff is done differently with him, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not really feeling this. What I don't really condone is like making big conspiracy theories as to why like they're doing different takes, because apparently there was like this one thing that came out recently saying that they're legally not allowed to make it accurate because of Sony's film rights or whatever.
That's
and I'm just like, or it could just be because they wanted to do a different take, and since it's so fucking late into the MCU that they brought him in, it was they couldn't really see a way to like integrate him quick enough without connecting him to one of the head Avengers. So that's why the way it is, because they just said, you know what, this is our vision, this is how we want to do it, and that's that on that.
There's also the fact that I mean, this is a film. I mean, like, obviously the MCU heavily marketed towards families and towards kids. No real fucking surprise there. Obviously, Spider-Man even more so.
Yes.
And whilst a lot of people didn't like it, a lot of people, a lot of Spider-Man fans really did not care for it. There still is a generation of kids who ultimately grew up with the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon series.
Yeah.
And I can see some legitimate comparisons being made between how that animated series interpreted Peter to an extent, not obviously exactly parallel one, but there are some similarities I could see there tonally or whatnot. Even in terms of him being mentored by like adult heroes sort of thing, and like idolizing Tony and whatnot, that I could understand Disney wanting to take that and adapt it to the big screen. Want that to be adapted to the big screen because they know that kids are going to recognize that.
Yeah, that's and like I hate that cartoon, but even I can recognize like what it's done for kids, and I would say it still has the core aspects of Peter Parker. I don't think he's as capable as other Peter Parkers, not even as capable as MCU Peter Parker. But like hey. That's another can of worms for another time. But yeah, I don't like that cartoon, but I definitely understand why like they'd pull some elements from there. And those elements I think are done kind of better in these movies, but But with that being said, let's actually dive into Peter Parker in this film. Let's dive into what we think about Peter Parker in this film.
He's great.
Yeah, I agree.
I definitely.
What I think is great about him is that we're seeing how seasoned he's becoming. And
Yes.
Homecoming, what I like Homecoming portraying him as like, this is him like still like, he's still very green because he's not even a year into being Spider-Man. Like in Civil War, it was like 6 months after he got his powers, and Homecoming is like a couple months later. But now this is like, at least to him, a couple like 2-ish years after Homecoming, like disregarding the 5 years
blip,
caused by
That's such a
blip.
stupid name, the blip. Like, are you serious?
I thought it was meant to be a joke in the movie, not the actual.
No, like,
because the way it's presented, it's presented from the Jason and Betty newscast.
In Comic Sans.
The blip in Comic Sans. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Which, by the by, that opening like montage mourning those characters was hilarious. So
like I love that. I will defend that. I will defend that. I will defend that to death. Some people have been like, that ruined Endgame, that like took that shadow over Endgame, and I'm like, this is what high school kids do. I was in high school 2 years ago.
Also, the Getty images at the end sold it. Like, that was what made it great, was the Getty images.
Also, I just want to point out the fact that's more of a tribute towards Natasha's death at the, afterwards the Endgame gave in the long run to death.
Oof.
So
that's pretty true.
I'm calling it like I sees it.
But yeah, like
more respected her than friggin' Endgame did.
Yeah. My senior year was 2 years ago in high school, and we had like a journalism class that did like the news every morning. This is the exact kind of shit they did, like every single day. So like, I've seen people be like, oh, this isn't how high schoolers act because they're not cursing or smoking or drinking. And it's like, who fucking cares? Like,
you're not allowed to do that in a public school or news report.
Also, it's a private like STEM school, fam. Like, I know rich white kids and shit like are bad kids, but I went to Catholic school. Like, they did that shit after school at Catholic school. So if they like, especially because my school, I went to the same school LeBron James did. It was very STEM oriented in a Catholic school, so it's very obvious that the bad stuff happened off campus. Like, get over it.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, sure, we're gonna show teenagers drinking and smoking in a PG-13 Spider-Man movie. Yeah, why not? Yeah, no, like, don't expect that just because.
If it was Amazing Spider-Man, that would be different. But like,
oh yeah, absolutely. But like, no, and that stuff like that would just be edgy for the sake of being edgy, and that would be like that would just come across to me as just like a big misrepresentation of kids today. I mean, kids do that stuff, but they like it. Yeah, I just feel like it wouldn't have been handled properly. But anyway,
or at least try to be a little more subtle about it.
Yeah, they try, but Peter Parker himself, I think, like, seeing how far he's come after, like, Civil War, Homecoming, Infinity War, and Endgame, like, he has gotten so much more capable. He has, like, become so much more agile. He feels more comfortable in his own skin with his power. And, like, my biggest love, my big moment where I'm just like, this is Peter Parker 100%, was, like, first was like the breakdown he had on the plane with Happy, which I know after that both of you probably have problems with that, but we'll get to that later.
On that.
No,
we'll get to that. Although
we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. But in the third act where he's fighting all the drones, like like that was some good Spidey stuff. And like what I loved was like it wasn't Stark Tech that saved the day. It wasn't his web shooters that saved the day. It was him. He got a shield. He got a bomb. He used his head. He used his head to win against Beck, and his Spidey sense and the Peter Tingle. Peter Tingle. I love the Peter
by Spider sense in the climax.
Like, to be fair, none of the other live action movies have referred to it as Spidey sense either.
That's true.
So, but like I'm fine with it being the Peter Tingle for right now because it's funny to me. But like, They won't call it that forever.
For the sake of ruining the film, just think that the climax.
Also, I'm getting really sick of
That
this.
is most real. You should not be playing for yucks at that point.
Yeah. Also, I'm really getting tired of Marissa Tomei. I just want that to be known by the world.
That's one of my complaints I'm gonna have later. Not because of her, but because of like
this relationship is really annoying.
We'll get into that later. But so like James, you had something to say about Tony Stark and his influence over Peter Parker. So why don't you go ahead and talk about that? Because I want to give you the floor.
So while I even said earlier that while I have the statement on the table that this is MCU Peter, other than a blip, other than a blip in Homecoming, we have not heard a lick or a hair or a bane of existence of Benjamin Parker. And
it was his suitcase that Peter initially took to Europe. Really wish that May would have given more of a shit about it getting blown up.
Yeah, yes, and also yes, that's a cool little Easter egg, but still, like, other than two things like that, there has been nothing. And I'm getting to the point where this insert Tony Stark into Benjamin Parker's place with both the Homecoming rubble scene and now the tragedy of needing a father figure, like especially because Mysterio used that to his advantage with a freaking gravestone. This is me taking a sledgehammer to that gravestone and saying, stop! Like, this is the last movie that I'm going to tolerate the Tony Starkism, because now Tony's gone. Yes, we have like the little thing at the end with him using the Stark tech and whatnot. Like, that's cool if Happy's his like butler and we have that for the future. But what we should have gotten after the big Peter Tingle scene with the tunnel and the drones and Beck, what we should have gotten after that was him breaking the glasses, but instead he walked back into school with the glasses on his shirt when he was with MJ, and or not school, but like at the airport, and that bugged me. That's when he puts them back on to see if he is still in the real world, and Edith tells him no, like yes, he's in the real world. He should have broke them. It should have been him saying that I will be the hero that I need to be, and I will live up to what Happy told me, that Tony didn't want him to be him. He wanted him to be the best Spider-Man possible. Because when that scene, and I agree, and I really shouldn't. Sorry. Yeah, and I agree with you, Alec. That scene on the plane is one of the best scenes in the entire movie, because Happy flat out says Tony didn't want you to be him. He knew he couldn't even be himself because he was always doubting himself.
That's probably one of my favorite lines in the entire movie, is just the fact that Tony, no one could measure up to Tony, not even Tony. Like, that's like, because like otherwise this film feels like it deifies Tony to an extent. That's the one moment where we legitimately get some real humanity and like vulnerability.
Yes.
So and I appreciate that.
Go for it.
I just wanted to say one thing. I'm not interjecting just yet. What I want to say is I like that this movie didn't deify Tony Stark. Like, it showed that the world was deifying Tony Stark, but that Tony Stark was just a person and a person with flaws. And like, I see on Twitter just like MCU fans being like, how could Far From Home insinuate that Tony Stark is not perfect and screwed people over? Like,
he is perfect and screwed people over. Did you not look at Iron Man 3? Did you not look at Homecoming 1?
And here's the thing,
that's like how every single Iron Man film went, basically. Like, that's how Tony got all of his villains.
Age of Ultron, Tony was never perfect. So for Happy to put his to put his mouth where he did and said Tony isn't perfect, he was always trying to measure up to the perfect self and he couldn't do it. Like, that's what proved to me that there is potential for Peter to break away from him. But for him to not break the glasses and him to keep Edith is a pain in the dick, and I hate it. Because
what I will say, my defense against this is that my defense, Mr. Murdoch, is like, we have to still recognize that yes, Peter needs to break away from Tony. Like, Tony cannot be like the gold standard for him. He needs to be the gold standard for himself. Yes. But we can't deny that Tony was still a father figure to him.
and that's fine.
and somebody, but
okay.
also, like, the glasses are the last thing Tony left for him.
Then he could have put it in like the suitcase back in the case, and then like he could be using the Stark tech as his future because it fit him like a glove. He was able to like use it and make the electro changes and whatnot. That's cool, but put him in a case. Do something with like put it on a shelf. Like, don't constantly wear it as like the future of Tony Stark. Like, no, don't do that.
They could have, but like maybe we haven't seen it.
Yeah,
they could have.
Okay, fair enough.
Because all we see is that the glasses are on his shirt. So that's it. But I totally get what you're saying. I 100% get what you're saying.
And the other argument that I have about this movie still wanting Peter to like be like, I saw a meme right before the show started. It was like it was doing a spoof of Lion King called Iron King, where Tony was lifting up Peter. Like, the movie still wants to do that to a certain degree because of the fact that Beck is another Tony Stark revenge killer. And that's really annoying.
Exactly my issue. And can I take over for a bit here?
Go for it.
Okay, because like my biggest issue with this entire film is actually in the reveal of Mysterio's, like, who Mysterio is and like the whole backstory thing. Which there's a good element to that, which I'll get into when we talk more about Mysterio. But not just the fact that the guy throughout the entire movie, Jake Gyllenhaal's character was wronged by Tony. But that they took the time to insert footage, adding in several other characters who were also burned by Tony, which was not needed because it's not even like they do it with every character in that group.
Tony Stark was built in a cave.
Look, I love that though, because it like
scraps.
Like, I'll get into this later, but like in the best way, without it being just Iron Boy Jr., this movie is a good parallel to Iron Man 1. That's what I will say.
I agree.
So I like seeing it tie back to that, and
that was cool. Yeah. But like I feel as if like now, granted, the idea that like the whole hologram technology, that I like the gimmick, and I like that they went and got Box of Scraps guy and whatnot. Like, that was cool. I like it. That's like the part of the movie where it's like, I like it for being an MCU movie, but this could have been, like, you know what would have been a great way to spin this? If there really was a multiverse, they just stuck to... I feel like I'm always saying that the Spider-Man movies need to stick to their damn guns. But if they had stuck to their guns, made it a multiverse thing, and that he wasn't a big-time superhero in whatever universe he was from, he was a con artist. And then he came here trying to make a living, and then he scammed Talos and his wife, and freaking, spoilers, and freaking, like, got over on everybody and wanted to make a name for himself. That would be kind of original.
But here's the thing. It all being bullshit is like so mysterious. Like, that's 100% Mysterio. And yeah, it is. I totally get not liking that. Oh, it's just another person who was wronged by Tony Stark. I even saw this really funny like tweet that said like, Tony Stark takes a shit in the bathroom. 5 years later, random person. I was next to the stall that Tony Stark was in 5 years ago when he was
truly Tony Stank.
And he stunk up the bathroom so bad, and now I'll get revenge on him by committing mass genocide.
I am Stank Man.
Like, I totally get how funny that is and how infuriating it is. I totally get it. But my perspective is like, it still like totally fits with Mysterio's character.
It does. That's why it worked.
Yeah, and what I like seeing is that I like seeing Peter ultimately having to take that responsibility, like dealing with the sins of the father in a sort of sense.
Yes, but that also, and like, and this is gonna have Xavier and past people that I fought in defense of Miles Morales some ammo. Like, the idea that Miles Morales, until Saladin Ahmed, even though I don't like his writing, has never given, like, actually a little bit into Bendis during All New a Different Marvel, like, Miles has never had truly his own villain besides his uncle, and all of them have been recycled Peter villains. And this is sort of the same situation where now it's just gone one step higher, where all of these villains are being generated from Tony's mistakes, and it feels like it's going to be a trend unless the rumor is true and that Venom might sneak into the background. But
with what the next movie is shaping up to be, which we'll talk about that later, because chef's kiss, because we'll get into that later when we talk about the mid-credit scene. But I don't think that'll stick around. I think this is just like a good way of tying up, of giving us a reason to be the end of the Infinity Saga and the end of Phase 3.
I like that. I like that reason.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's just my perspective. I totally get like where you guys are coming from. We want to see Peter create his own demons on his own, because that's the typical Parker luck. But But there was some good examples of Parker luck in this movie.
Yes, there were. Night Monkey. Freaking Night
True.
Monkey.
Like,
Oh
I mean,
my god.
One thing I do really like about Peter's characterization here is not just like the unfortunate timing of shit for him, again, the old Peter Parker luck rearing its head, but one thing I actually really loved about it is just how it felt much more so than in Homecoming, how it very much felt like Peter really was kind of struggling with the weight of the responsibility of being Spider-Man with his personal life sort of thing, because it felt because Homecoming felt like weirdly detached from that to an extent, or at the very least sorry, at the very least, while it was a factor, like overall in terms of Homecoming, I think a lot of it was kind of really blending Spider-Man with like an 80s an 80s kind of teen comedy sort of thing, coming of age comedy sort of thing. This felt like it wasn't doing that as much, which I kind of enjoyed more, and I think that kind of helped again with Peter's own portrayal within it. I might have felt that this was just an okay film overall, but I think it's actually one of the better Peter Parker portrayals in a film.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, he's cracks-wise a little bit in this film, but not quite to the same extent as the live-action measuring stick that I have right now in terms of wisecracking on screen still being Andrew Garfield.
Fuck, what was I gonna say? I think it handled the responsibility that Peter felt very well, and it is planting those seeds that showing that Uncle Ben still existed, I think, because he clearly has made it a point to mention his responsibility. And to an extent,
I will give you that the resistance of May to be fully on board with dating Happy, where she was like only summer fling, like that gave me a little bit of hope that she's like it was something to help me forget about Ben. Like maybe like there's something that could be expanded upon later. But
I feel like
also a little bit of an idea I had. It's not really directly stated. It's probably just something I completely inferred. But in regards to a particular moment with MJ. And how at the end of the film she says that even before that he was Spider-Man, she was interested in him. And I have to wonder, considering MJ's own background, how she's very much interested in the macabre, and she seems to be a lot more like emotionally aware of other people. She doesn't present as such, but she does seem to be aware of that. If part of the reason potentially that Peter ended up initially catching MJ's eye was because of her seeing how he first seeing him immediately upon losing losing his Uncle Ben, and then that could wanting to help with that. I know that's just the personal kind of thing. Plus, I mean, it also would potentially play into establishing MJ's backstory from the comics, since she specifically mentions that she doesn't open up to people easily. Which, I mean, if her backstory is anything like it is in the original source material or in other adaptations, given her dad, that's understandable.
There's two quick things I want to say about Peter before we move on to another topic. But one thing during the illusion scene, which we'll get to that in a bit. One thing was this scene where after Beck says, "I don't think you know what's real, Peter." Peter's transported into Queens, and we see this building, and the camera. And I've seen this movie 3 times now. The camera lingers on it for a specific. It feels like it's for a specific reason, and we see Mysterio punch through it. Now, I know Mysterio isn't Scarecrow, so he can't make people see their worst fears. He can just conjure up what he knows about them. But I'm just wondering, does this building have any significance to Peter? Like, could it have been the orphanage he was kept at after his parents died until Ben and May came to get him? Or could it have been, like you said, where Ben got shot? It could happen, because this movie plans to seeds for the sequel in really interesting ways. So I feel like there's some significance there with that specific building, because it could have just been him seeing a certain landmark in Queens and then being punched by Mysterio, but no, it's just one building. So I'm just like, it gets the cogs turning, and I wouldn't be mad if I'm wrong, but it's interesting to think about. The other thing is the Back in Black scene. Ian, I know you. Ian doesn't like it. I'm assuming James doesn't like it.
I didn't care because it was kind of a cool moment, but like
I don't mind Peter like being familiar with the technology. I just don't like the fact that there wasn't like, I don't know, like going that far into the Iron Man stuff is kind of what worries me a little bit, because I like Peter kind of being his own separate character. I'm also worried that if they push Peter in this direction too much, the MCU won't have reason to introduce Riri, which is like frickin' want.
Okay, but like
I think Riri will benefit from not being super tied to Tony.
Yeah,
maybe she can be tied to Pepper. She can be tied to Pepper.
There we go.
Yeah,
see, that's what I was
just say. Like how you like it's gonna be Iron, like it has to be Iron Man-esque or similar technology she uses in the suit.
Also, and here's my biggest argument that I've wanted since day one for Riri. This whole like Tony, not Tony, fucking Tony, Peter and Happy dynamic. This sort of lends to what Alec just said about Pepper, but because of the fact that Bendis killed him before he could meet Riri, you have Don freaking Cheadle to be your mentor for the black character that could come in and replace Tony. You do that and make War Machine the mentor to a new kid in the hood who has suffered loss like that. That could be the greatest movie on the face of the earth.
I would watch that. I would watch the shit out of that. Like seeing like the young actress playing off of Don Cheadle would be really fun.
I as much as I hate Bendis' origin of my father, my stepfather, and my best friend were all killed in shootings. Like, as much as I hate
I know it's Chicago, but jeez.
As much as I hate that, like Don Cheadle being in the Air Force, like and having the background that he does, like that could be a really good, strong. And I've seen that man be in some good movies like Blood Diamond and stuff like that. I know he could pull off something really intense and really strong for like to go with a young girl being that character.
He's got a great range. I mean, between like stuff like that or like his more comedic stuff like Ocean's 11 or even stuff like House of Lies.
Yeah, so like
Dude's got range.
There is potential for that could be a better movie. So if they want to like buddy up Happy and Peter and May, which I hate, but like let that be a thing, then go let that be a thing. Let Pepper like raise young child and let Rhodey be the one to succeed and do that kind of shit. I'm cool with that. I need Tony to I need Peter to stop being Tony and be his own man separate from here. And if they want to put Happy and May together and let that be a thing, then go do that. But let's talk about some other characters.
Yeah.
Like JB Smoove.
Yeah. I like people weren't laughing at him as much in like my showings, but I loved him.
Bro, like just the teachers in general. Like I wanted to stab the stupid teacher, but JB Smoove had me dying when like he's just like, it's witches. I'm a science teacher, and even I can tell it's witches.
They're drawing forces like the Power Rangers.
No, it's Voltron.
Can I just say that scene? Screw you for taking a cheap shot at Hydro Man's origins.
Oh my god!
I thought it was a good Easter egg.
Yeah, I thought it was.
But
besides, like, what was the other like interpretation of Hydro Man being like a creepy stalker to MJ? That was like so.
You mean in the animated series where they also tied in the Clone Saga adaptation?
Oh, that actually did Clone Saga like leagues better than the actual comic did. But
I mean, damn near everything could.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
but let's talk about MJ because I know you have a lot to say about MJ, James.
Alec, I want you to say how you feel about MJ before I go off.
Okay. My constant thing is that she should still be named Mary Jane Watson. Yes. I don't care if it's a super different take on the character.
Yes.
Ultimate MJ was a super different take on the character, and she was still named Mary Jane Watson. So I don't know,
the
like
PS4 version, frankly.
Oh yeah, like she is super different from 616 MJ. So it's like, but like, here's the thing. Like, I feel like this MJ is like more accurate to 616 MJ than Raimi MJ, and I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill because
agreed.
Yeah, she's just super, like, she's super witty. capable. She's like able to prop Peter up when like they're able to prop each other up. It shouldn't be just her always propping him up.
Yes.
And
and sorry, can I just jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like this is like MJ and Zendaya's portrayal of her and the writing and like, depiction of her character in this film is one of the most respectable adaptations of MJ that they've ever done in a movie thus far.
I agree.
Like
Yes.
the only even more so arguably than Into the Spider-Verse, because Into the Spider-Verse ultimately doesn't really serve her own role within that film.
That's like one of the main complaints I had about Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Like
Which,
they
I mean,
just
We got
considering that was
divorced.
supposed to be Miles' story, that doesn't bother me as much.
We got divorced.
Yeah.
But like she just went to the she just went to the dinner held by her husband's murderer. That ticked me off. But like yeah.
I mean, I get that feeling. It was more just a public thing that she kind of blackmail or something. But anyway, point is with the Zendaya's MJ, I really liked, and in particular, what I absolutely freaking loved about this movie, and I remember, like the night or two before seeing it, I was watching TV with my mom, and like the TV spot for the movie came up where they have a bit of this, the bit of the scene where MJ reveals that she knows that Peter is Spider-Man. I thought I was so worried they were gonna play that as a joke.
I thought they were gonna like either joke it or make it a mysterious smokescreen. That's what I thought it was gonna be, and then it ended up being real.
I know, and I appreciate the hell out of that. I really like the fact that they actually respected her enough to have her show that no, like she didn't need someone, like she didn't need Peter to tell him. She's smart enough to figure that shit on her own. Because that's true of MJ's character. Like she's a person who's very much underrepresented or underestimated because of the front she puts up, and presents herself as.
Yeah, and like I mean, she did be like, I was only 67% sure, but like she still had a majority idea that he was Spidey, and and even like her puffing like, oh yeah, I know you're Spider-Man, is just another front that she's putting up because she's like she does know, but she's putting up this front like, yeah, I know, but like. Yeah, it's that peeling back of the layers of her character, and I feel like we're going to get more of that in 3, which I hope we do.
Same. I mean, as I said, I mentioned before, my own personal theory: if they do adapt the aspect of her home life not being that great because of her dad being an alcoholic and whatnot, that would work very well with this film, doing both a different but spiritually similar take to how MJ presents herself, whereas MJ in prior adaptations always the flighty party girl, like present herself as the flighty, bubble-headed party girl, always happy, always go lucky or whatnot. Never really seemed to have a care in the world sort of thing to try and kind of shield herself and to keep herself blocked off from others. Not that I'm saying that that all that everything about this version of MJ is likewise the same thing, but I could see her pushing out a little bit more and whatnot. And like being a little bit snarkier in an extent as a similar kind of defense mechanism serving a similar purpose, which I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, like
I'm not trying to say having like a more goth based MJ is not no, she's not actually a goth, but no, I definitely think she can get at the cop, and I'm completely okay with that, and I love that about her character in this.
You guys said everything I needed to say, so good job.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. James, go.
No, dead ass. Like you guys said right there, everything I needed to say. And then Red Lantern Reviews, who's been sticking it out in the chat with us the entire time, he said exactly what I wanted to say is that you change like her name to Mary Jane. I have no complaints, and this is the one thing that I'll probably touch on in a couple weeks on our new upcoming podcast, Lower Grounds. We talk about race changes. I am the biggest believer in not changing the race of a character. I believe as an African American that we should be building our own stuff in comic book culture. But, and this is my but situation, you need to do the Will Smith formula. That yes, he played Will Smith in Suicide Squad, but he played Floyd Lawton. He played him to a T, and he did what he needed to do. What Feige needed to stick to his guns. That's why I keep saying we need to stick to our guns here. Like when it comes to the Spider-Man franchise, he needed to stick to his guns, do what they're doing with Ariel in the Disney franchise, and they needed to keep her the same character. They need to make her Mary Jane Watson. You left Flash the same name. You know he's obviously a different race and a different background. You left him as Flash Thompson. You have Ned who's different. Almost everything about him is stolen from a different character, and his name is still Ned Leeds. You kept everything else the same. Why was Mary Jane the one you shied away from? What? Because angry white nerds? You ain't letting white people stop you from and having Ariel be black. So you should have stuck to your guns and made Mary Jane black. That's my one thing I'm saying, and I'm done.
My two theories on that are, one, because of the angry white nerds who will get up in arms about a black Mary Jane. And the other thing is, like, because, like, I don't think they intended to cast her as Mary Jane, but, like, from the rumor mills that we're starting, like, this is my one, like, kind of conspiracy theory, but it's not even, like, a big stretch of conspiracy theory. They saw how popular Zendaya was getting, and they're like, oh, shit, like, if we give her like super top billing and we like promise her like a bigger role for the future, we can make her MJ. But in the script, she's not MJ. But you know, we can do this thing at the end of Homecoming where we can call her my friends call me MJ. So I feel like
I disagree. I feel as if Zendaya has been one of the big ever since Hannah Montana ended and Shake It Up came into the picture. And yeah, I'm a Disney Channel kid. Let me alone. Ever since Shake It Up aired, she like out of the two that were on the show, Bella Thorne and Zendaya was more slated to be the star. She was the one who got her own show once Shake It Up was canceled as in Casey Undercover. She was the one that got to be in starring roles like that one Hugh Jackman and Zac Efron movie that I don't remember the name. Oh yeah, Greatest Showman, because I'm a theater kid. I know theater. She was in Greatest Showman with Zac Efron and Danny DeVito and Hugh Jackman. She's been getting bigger and bigger roles, and she was probably most likely slated to be Mary Jane Watson, but then Feige couldn't handle the white nerd drama. And Disney having to deal with Roseanne and Gunn and all this bullshit, they didn't want to have to wrestle with the white nerds. So they just said, screw it, call her something else, give her the nickname at the end, do what you gotta do, and get out. And
I could see it being in a combination of both. I mean, I could see them not necessarily like kind of only implying that she's potentially implying, at least in the first film, that she's MJ, so that they could sign her with a less expensive contract. So you know,
it just feels like
pictures.
It also just kind of felt like for the sake of a weird reveal that this is our MJ, and it's like, well, he could have just said that from the beginning, like, and nothing would have been different about the movie. But yeah. So all in all, I think MJ was great in this movie.
Yeah, she was great.
Honestly, one of the single strongest aspects of the film for me.
Yes.
Yeah, and I hope we get even more for in 3. And I'm so glad because what I was scared of is that like she was also going to leave at the end of the movie and like be another another love interest that moves away from Peter. But like I'm very glad that it's like nope, she's sticking around. She's going to be in the next one. Yeah, I'm very happy about that. Now. We talked about Mysterio a bit, but let's like talk a little bit more about him before we move on.
Master of the Arcade.
Other stuff.
Oh Lord. Okay, so like Jake Gyllenhaal, I know he was supposed to be Spider-Man back in the day. I'm glad he came back and there's this whole meme of like Jake Gyllenhaal like kissing and waving goodbye on a talk show. It's like it says Jake Gyllenhaal doing his one MCU role and then leaving. But the thing is, this man has had the most lasting effect on the future of Spider-Man's like storytelling for the next future. And the fact that Feige has already said the next Spider-Man movie is going to be something that has never been done before, that shows that Mysterio walked in, slammed his dick on the table, and walked out. And that is the best way I can state that.
And here's the fun thing. I mean, I know they could, he might definitely be down or one up, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind, like, if they were able to get him back, I think they easily could, because the fun thing with Mysterio as a character and how they designed him within this film, even narratively within the structure of the film, you could easily have, like, someone else, one of the other members of the whole Mysterio group or whatnot, just take on the role, and when they're appearing as Mysterio, even without the helmet, they just use a projection of the Jake Gyllenhaal guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, here's the thing, wouldn't be Quentin Beck. Quentin Beck, the human name himself, was part of the cover story. Technically, Jake Gyllenhaal's character's name is not Quentin Beck.
That's what I love.
That's true.
Same.
That's what I love, because it's
for Mysterio to come back in any number of other films, even though the Gyllenhaal character died.
It goes the extra mile of being like, yeah, this guy is all bullshit all the way through. and that's like so Mysterio. And like I was like, okay, we're gonna get a pretty different version of Mysterio in this movie, so I'm like bracing myself for that. And then we get like one of the most comic accurate portrayals of a villain ever. A comic book movie. Like, I feel like his Mysterio is like on par with like Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, and just like they're just like super cheesy but also like super menacing and psychotic, and I love that. Like, I'm glad.
And just all take a moment to fangasm over how fucking awesome the realization when Mysterio actually outright attacks Peter and starts using his illusions full on.
Oh my
god! How goddamn
God.
amazing that was! Like, that basically was all the really cool, awesome stuff you get from like his appearances in the '94 Spider-Man animated series, or Spectacular Spider-Man's animated series, or like any like even like in the best Mysterio-centric comics, put to the big screen in such a perfect way. Like, the only minor criticism I might have had with the entire like second act sequence with that, when he gets when Mysterio tricks him into kind of revealing the whole stuff with Nick Fury and whatnot, and kind of leaves him for dead getting hit by that train. The only minor thing I would say is that I would have liked a tombstone that, even if you don't say the full name, at least like showing a tombstone with like partial Ben Parker's name on it. Again, going back a little bit into what James said, like not just having Tony being the only name there.
The possibility is that like either Mysterio did do the research and only like put in the that building, or like he just didn't do research into Peter, because Mysterio can only conjure up what he knows about somebody, not like he can't use gas to make them. He's not Scarecrow.
That's true.
So
although admittedly, like seeing the like, because he had him in the old raggedy ass original suit briefly in that sequence, so like he clearly went very in depth into his backstory, and like Peter's uncle, like the guy who helped raise him for so many years, being dead, that would be public record. That would not be hard for him to find.
So that's why I'm just kind of like that building has some significance, maybe. And that's just, but we'll see.
Colored with lit very weirdly, so like.
Yeah. So my thing with Ben is that I have gone on record saying I do hope that they mentioned him here, and I still kind of hope they did, but thinking back at how this movie was and how it was structured and how it had to still deal with the fallout of Endgame and Tony Stark's death, it would have felt out of place to just shove in, oh, here's also Uncle Ben that happened. I feel like that has to be in its own movie, and I feel like next movie, it's like, okay, this is the time to do it. It's this time, or like, we're just never going to get a Ben reference, which I'm not completely like going to be like, this Spider-Man isn't Spider-Man because Ben isn't mentioned by name.
No, it's not even that. I just need Ben to actually be freaking talked about, even if it's like not like, give me a Full House type scene. Yes, I made a Full House reference. Like, give me the sappy music. Give me everything of like May like sitting him down talking about
Saget playing Uncle Ben.
Yes.
Oh my god.
But like,
Tobey Maguire is Uncle Ben. Tobey Maguire is Uncle Ben. Make it happen.
Like, just give me one scene of like May talking about Uncle Ben and not trying to flirt with freaking Happy, and I'll be happy. Like, just give me one.
Get it?
Yeah, so
happy. But like, thinking back, I'm just like, if they did put a Ben reference in this movie other than like that suitcase, and that suitcase was just an Easter egg, so it wasn't supposed to be like, oh, this big plot point. So, but I feel like, again, it would have kind of felt out of place. And Homecoming, I'm like, okay, maybe like it could have used a reference here, and here I'm just kind of like, you couldn't really fit that in and make it work well, because then you'd confuse all the new fans who don't know who Ben is, and you need to build that kind of thing up. You have to have like more than just one mention of him. So
I would agree with that, except I think we live in a generation, like particularly in an era where of all the various different superhero origins, I think Peter's is probably one of the most universally well known in terms of its basics and its mechanics, and thus I feel like Uncle Ben is not a character you really need to develop or explain all that much.
That's why I just need like a 5-minute like acknowledgement, like besides whatever May's been through, like give me like 2 minutes of her actually talking about her freaking late husband, and then I will leave you alone.
I just want like a more like just like a scene of Peter, just like, even if he doesn't say anything, notice like seeing his like Uncle Ben's name somewhere.
Yeah.
and taking a moment to mourn. That's all I want.
It's got to be something that isn't just like super out of place, because it still could be, even though we all know who Ben is. So that's why I feel like the next movie can, like, with what the next movie is going to be, it will.
Okay, I'll give you
Could
that.
be anyway.
Yeah,
or we don't really exactly know what the next one.
We don't know, but like it could go in many directions. But I want to get to the mid-credits scene, real quick. The action, the cinematography,
great,
beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Like they got the Daredevil cinematographer, and like
very smart move on their part.
It makes a world of difference. Like Homecoming, and I think John Watts has really like stepped up his game as a director. Like he used to be this guy who like posted stupid YouTube videos like back in the early days, and like made 2 indie movies, and like now he's directing big budget Spider-Man movies, and he's really stepped up his game, I think, as like not just with the action, but with like directing actors and blocking. And I think he did like a really good job with this movie, and I hope he at least gets to finish this trilogy. Because
he's definitely earned it, and I'll give him that. Like I need him to calm down a little bit in some regards. Like I just like if you put a gun to my head, there is one problem from a movie perspective that I have, is the annoyance of freaking Ned and Betty and also annoying Asian American child. But like otherwise, like this movie is great. It hits the beats that it needs to. The action is amazing. Like that scene of him inside the illusion is so intense and so cool, of him like stringing together all of the drones at once. The dreams, the illusion sequence in general. The first one where he gets hit by the train is amazing. Like it's so well done, and I love as a final piece to the Infinity Saga. It's so well done, and I'm so glad that he got to do it.
Agreed. And before I forgot to mention this, but I really want to mention it. This is like one of the best Spider-Man moments put on film. It's when Peter is like looking at Beck, and Beck is like going on about how you're a good person, Peter. You really do deserve these glasses. And Peter just like catches the invisible arm out of nowhere, and that Beck is revealed to just be
good. Because honestly, I was sold, like, okay, this is the end, no big deal, get the glasses be done. And then he just goes, man, like it's the freaking Matrix. I was like, oh shit!
I mean,
like, that
I
was
knew
the first moment of the whole
just because I knew that I didn't figure that Mysterio would give it up in the end.
Yeah. Oh no, I thought there was a little bit of good in him, and then they just go, nope, he's shit. And I'm like, all right, cool, that's fine.
Yeah. But that was like is a defining, like we had like a defining moment for Holland's Peter with the rubble scene, but like I feel like that was like, okay, that's a good first step. Now what's the next step? And then
he should have just broke the glasses, and he didn't do it.
He had to call off the drones, but
no, break the glasses after calling off the drones.
But then break the glasses after, because like I don't really like the fact that Peter thinks he should have long-term access to a massive satellite.
Oh no! I think they should have shown him like deconnecting Edith from the glasses, but still keeping the glasses, because that's like the last. No, that's the last piece of like a father figure he had. That's like the last.
I would be fine with that. I just would have basically had like at least added a line. Basically saying, okay, Edith, now delete yourself or something, or shut down all Edith protocols.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, at least. I feel like it might be a deleted scene, but like I just can't see like this Peter like having complete access to a big security like network on the level of Ultron. I can't see that. But
also, what happened to Friday?
She's dead.
That's a good one.
R.I.P. Friday. What happened to Karen? That's a good question.
Yeah, what happened to Karen? Like she just didn't get to come back for this movie. Like what happened? Because the suit was right there in the new version, like the old version and the new version. They're like, oh, like, and Ian's been the joke, Karen's the tank. Like, no, Karen deserves to be there. Karen is important.
I'm sorry, like, it was written out of the MCU. She no longer cares.
Oh God.
I liked Karen in Homecoming, but I think like we don't need her anymore.
Like, are we just gonna keep getting a new robotic love interest for Peter every movie?
God.
Joe Costa coming in Spider-Man 3.
Oh Lord, no, because that would piss me off. That would piss me off to no end. They took another thing from Hank Pym. That would drive me insane. But okay, mid-credits scene, let's go.
Mid-credits scene. Oh fucking God. So
okay,
first of all, this should have been the end of the movie. Like it needed to be the end of the movie. Like it.
Yeah, because I got so many people like getting up and out of my theater because like Endgame taught them that end credit scene didn't exist anymore, and I was like, bruh, sit down. Like I already know what happened. Sit down. And like my whole row stayed, but everyone else left.
Just one little more addendum for that. Just in regards to the Endgame stuff for that, I'm pretty certain the opening, like the very first bits with Nick and Maria, just before the actual like opening titles and whatnot, where they first stumble across Mysterio, that was basically the post-credit scene they added on to Endgame, right?
That's what they showed with the re-release, yeah.
Yeah, so like basically, like I just kind of found that kind of funny and whatnot, because like it definitely feels more like a post-credit scene, and I almost kind of wish it had been attached to that from the get-go, because it almost felt like a nice spiritual successor. Nick Fury interacting with his other character. Also kind of similar to, in a weird way, it had a similar vibe to like Thor with the hammer, the post-credit scene teasing Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatnot, but like I don't know, just that was just like another weird thing for me. Like seeing it, I'm like, yeah, this like I just found it kind of funny. This is very clearly the post-credit scene from another movie slapped onto this film's opening.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. But like, first of all, J.K. Simmons is back as J. Jonah Jameson.
They turned my man into Alex Jones, and I don't know how I feel about that.
No, like they did that for the PS4 game.
They did,
so I'm just like, it's okay.
Yeah.
They could go more in depth into him. They could. This could just be like a gag they're gonna have for Spidey 3, and then be like, okay, well now we're gonna develop J. Jonah Jameson and like steer him away from that. But like, I think in this modern age, it works that he's like an Alex Jones type of guy. Like we know J. Jonah Jameson isn't like a super bad guy, but like for a new age in the MCU, I think it's an interesting direction to go. But like, even though he doesn't have the flat top anymore, and
yeah, like they kind of just like shoved some freaking spirit gum on his lip and put a mustache. I was like, bro, where's your headpiece? Come on now.
But like, it's still just like he slips back into the role like a glove.
Yes,
like,
very much so.
It's been 12 years since he played J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh God,
it's been 50 years.
I hate that.
I mean, he did play him in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, but just like doing the voice.
Yes,
so like, this is like now. What I'm hoping is that I hope this isn't just like a fun cameo. I hope this is like J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah, but like so. Yeah, J.K. Simmons is back as J. Jonah Jameson. Like, if they weren't going to go in a different direction, like have Ice Cube.
I wanted Ice Cube so bad. Like, I walked in this movie was like Ice Cube or nothing, and then they didn't have Ice Cube, and I was kind of salty. But then I saw J.K. and I was like, all right, cool, that's fine.
But if they were gonna
the ultimate solution for trying like. And I find that kind of funny because, like, the Amazing Spider-Man films was just like, okay, we'll just have him like only appear via name, never on screen, because we're never gonna cast anyone better in this part.
Yeah.
So it's just like MCU is just like, fuck, who do we cast for J. Jonah Jameson? Just like, let's just call JK up again.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
It's like
if some money in his house.
If they weren't going to go in like a totally different direction, JK is like the only one to do it. Like JK is the only one. Yeah. Like if they weren't going to go in a different direction and have it be somebody of a different race, or maybe even make J. Jonah Jameson a woman. Who knows? Like they could have done something like that. That like if they weren't going to do that, this is like the only option they could have done. So like the me who grew up with the Raimi movies is like happy that like they got J.K. Simmons back. But like now let's talk about the meat of the post credits. So Mysterio, I think he's still alive because he said on the bridge he still needed the cape, and there's no way he could have filmed this video during the third act. So he could either still be alive and come back soon, or he's still alive and is just now going into hiding and just going to live a normal life knowing that he fucked over Peter Parker's world forever. Which both would be cool. Both would be cool.
And like, my one fear is that going into this movie, like into the future of the MCU, is that he made sure that he said Peter was using Stark tech. You really think, like, even if Happy swears on God to Pepper, you really think Pepper's gonna let that boy anywhere near Stark tech after this? Nah. Like, you really think like Sam as Cap or anybody is gonna want to trust Peter after this. Nah.
Well, no, like they're the people who trust him the most.
That's like
This is know him as a person, and they know that that's flat out BS.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Here's the thing: this is the cool thing because this is the origin of how like the whole of the world is now going to start being against Spider-Man. Even if Peter's name gets cleared, Spider-Man's name still won't be cleared. So
and honestly, I think that's almost a misstep. They didn't have to they kind of tipped the whole boat over in a sense, or like did the whole like cow tipping kind of moment where like the cow doesn't fully go over in some cases, but in this case they pushed the whole cow over. You didn't need to say, hey, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. You could have said Spider-Man killed Quentin Beck and made him a wanted fugitive and made him a threat and gave Alex Jones, J. Jonah Jameson, more like fuel. But now you've made this entire thing where unless freaking Stephen Strange walks in with a time stone or somehow he clears his name,
See, that's what I'm worried about with this.
But here's the thing.
Especially, sorry, just if you don't mind. Just
No,
that's the one concern that I have going forward with this, given the setup, given how much time they set up Peter and MJ's relationship, the fact that Peter's idea
they'll erase it again.
Do not do one more day.
No,
don't do it.
No.
Director even said, said the next one's gonna be so radically different.
We'll do it
Don't
again.
Do one more day. I don't give a shit how much Joe Quesada bitches and whines and throws shit at people.
Quesada just comes in, we're doing it again.
Plastered all over the next film. Don't do it.
So here's what I think will happen. Because here's the thing. I am super excited for the third movie because we're going to see something we've never seen before. We're going to see Peter backed into a corner where there is nowhere left for him to hide or run. And that's the perfect opportunity to have Kraven or the Sinister Six even. This is the perfect opportunity to be okay, here's villains fucking coming after him, coming after his family, his friend. This is going to teach him, because this is his fault. He gave Edith to Beck, and because of that, Beck was able to pin this on Peter. That is Peter's fuck up.
For Peter being as paranoid with his identity as he is in the comics, sort of thing. Because even just the fact, I know it's partially because he met Quentin Beck for the first time directly through Nick Fury, but even the fact that he was that Shield was able. It's Shield to run on Nick Fury or whatnot. Obviously he was going to know who Peter was regardless, but just the fact that Peter ultimately has been kind of relaxed with his public identity in this incarnation and whatnot. I think this is going to kind of put the fear of God into him in terms of ever being so willing to share that information with anyone ever again.
Yeah. And this is why I think, this is my theory, we're going to have Matt Murdock come in the third movie and be his lawyer.
See?
This is, I feel like it's going to, because 2020 is the year where Kevin Feige can use the Netflix characters again. This is the time. So, and Kevin Feige has said he loves these iterations of the characters in the shows.
See, as much as I would love that, I don't know if that'll ever happen.
I feel like
it will. If the third film was just basically, okay, we're doing Sinister Six, only part of it is just basically Fisk. You bring in Vincent D'Onofrio, because let's face it, regardless of whatever the hell Vincent D'Onofrio has on his schedule, if you come to him and say, "Hey, Vincent D'Onofrio, that Spider-Man movie you always wanted to be in, alongside Charlie Cox, we're doing that film now. Also, we're gonna have the Sinister Six in this."
He will drop the world. He'll do it for a ham sandwich and a Coke. He won't care.
Yeah. He will drop everything and do that. And I feel like Charlie Cox would too.
You tell him he gets a big boy check and he gets a new suit. Oh hell yeah, he'll come in. Tell Karen and Foggy they can come too. Hell yeah.
I just want to see so bad Matt going over to Peter and be like, "Hey, I know what it's like. I know what you're going through. Let me help you. Let me and my friends help you." And I just love to get to see Peter bouncing off of Matt, off of Foggy, off of Karen, and off of Fisk. This would be
Fisk feels like the perfect way to set up the Sinister Six within this reality.
You could have Fisk and Kraven. You could have 3 villains in the next movie: Fisk, Kraven, and Scorpion. Scorpion could just be for one fight scene.
Or Fisk, Scorpion and Vulture, because Scorpion went and got Vulture.
Mm.
That'd be the perfect way to tie up a trilogy, because if Pascal keeps bitching like wanting their shit back, they could just be like, okay, we'll call Keaton, we'll call freaking D'Onofrio, we'll call Cox, we'll call the dude from the end credit scene, we'll do one last shebang, or hell, we can even say Beck was alive, and we can do one last shebang and let it be the way to go off. And then we can do Miles!
Ugh. Like, there's just so many different directions they could go for this third movie, but I feel like the third movie is going to be like more, like, I don't expect it to be like a full-on dramatic thriller or anything, but I'd love to get some of that tension from the Winter Soldier, like, just those on the edge of your seat, feeling like you're running out of time.
Yes.
Like, I'd love some of that, and
I
feel like
I think that's gonna have to be the drive of the film, and like I almost kind of wonder, like the thing that I kind of worry about a little bit with this film in terms of potential third film is just from a real world times, real world perspective, the fact that it's going to be at least 2 years before this film hits theaters.
yeah,
Assuming, I mean, like I assume they're not gonna, like, barring any sort of weird things with, like, some other studio being, oh, we're gonna be dicks and like go and like set up a contract so that you can't actually have have your lead actors for like 8 or 9 months, so that you have to push this film back into like 2023 or something. Presumably it will still come out. I'm hoping, or like the thing that I worry about a little bit is that just the amount of time that like even if it is only 2 years, it feels like it's going to be a bit of a wait to actually really get the full payoff for this, unless we see Peter in another film. But I don't necessarily think would do this concept justice to try and shove it into another MCU film of any kind, right? Even if it was an Avengers film or something.
Yeah.
To try and do that, I think wouldn't do it justice. So I think it's going to be kind of tricky to deliver on that without audiences feeling it's, from a real world standpoint, feeling like it's been too long to actually get payoff from this.
Yeah.
And resolution, or resolution more accurately.
Yeah, there's just so many different directions they could go, but I'm very excited to see what they do.
Yeah,
but,
and we can do speculation on like another episode, or we can do it.
Yeah, but we
have a full 2 years now.
Yeah, we're out of time right now. So, final thoughts on Far From Home from both of you. Really quick.
From a comic standpoint, it has some pitfalls, but as a movie, if I was going in as a critic who's only going in to type in my Rotten Tomato store and go home, it gets an 85 for me. If I'm going in from a comic fan standpoint, it gets a 6.5.
Fair enough.
It still passes the class, but it's only by a little bit of a curve.
Yeah.
I agree. Basically, like, if you're at all remotely familiar with Mysterio, you're gonna probably find the first act in particular a little bit harder to get into as much, because like going into knowing that Mysterio is going to screw things over, you're gonna get the Peter and company, like the other characters are gonna get the wool pulled over their eyes with Mysterio. Does take away from that, but ultimately, even with that, there is still some really good stuff here. Mysterio is one of the best depictions of a Spider-Man villain in a basically in any film I've ever come across. The most respectful adaptation of MJ in a film yet. Much better depiction. Like, I felt much more like this was, like, overall this felt ultimately more like it was trying to tell Peter Parker story than Homecoming did for me, whereas it felt like it was only half a Peter Parker story and half just trying to homage 80s teen comedies. It's just the only other thing that I have issue with is the fact that this felt like it was half a Peter Parker story and half a Tony Stark legacy memorial story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I really do wish that Watts is able to do a third film, because I think with this one done, he can do just flat out, full on Peter Parker, and that film will be friggin' amazing.
All right.
Yeah. My final thoughts is, like, if you're going to go into this thinking, okay, they're going to throw out everything about MCU Spider-Man, he's going to spit on Tony Stark's grave and say fuck Tony Stark.
That's not gonna happen.
Like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Like,
we're not talking about the guy who played the lead in The Giver here.
No. No. Like, this is still very much MCU Spider-Man. This is still first and foremost a sequel to Homecoming.
Yes.
But it expands on it in a way that I think brings it closer to Peter from the comics. And I saw this article. I didn't read it, but I saw the headline and like a tweet saying like, there's a reason we haven't seen Peter's origin. We're actually seeing it right now, being told in a new way over the course of this trilogy, which I think is a good way to look at it. I see it as a good new retelling of like, okay, here's Peter like taking on the name Spider-Man in Civil War, but now here's him fully becoming Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where the third film is going to be. It's going to explain how half the city is going to hate Peter, how he's going to be so secretive about his identity, and how he's going to keep his loved ones at arm's length, because a lot of shit can go down in this third movie. But for this movie, I think it's a good Peter Parker story. I think it further develops him and his side characters. I thought Mysterio was great, and I think it was a good final cap on the Infinity Saga. Because at first I was like, well, isn't this Phase 4? Like, what does this have to do with the Infinity Saga? But then we have a call back to Iron Man 1. And now I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. But regardless, this isn't the best Spider-Man movie.
No.
I don't think so. But it's a damn good one.
That's Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
That's true. That's the best one.
I finally saw it, and it's amazing.
Thank you. Finally.
Okay, I had to make a choice back in December. I either had money for Aquaman or I had money for Spider-Man. And yes, I love Miles Morales, but I am an Aquaman fan. I am the biggest Aquaman fan you will ever find. So I had to go rep my mans. I stick by that.
As someone whose favorite DC character is Mara, I can't complain with it.
See, there you go. So I waited till it hit Netflix, and I watched it the night it hit Netflix. So there you go. Problem solved.
There you go.
Yes.
So Far From Home is not the best Spider-Man movie, but in my opinion, it is a damn good one.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see where it goes next, unless Sony just says fuck it and hits the reset button again before they complete a trilogy.
Oh,
but
Lord.
Anyway, so that is all the time we have. We've gone on a bit long. That is my bad. But thank you all so much for tuning in. And thank you for being with us on this ride to Far From Home, where we've covered all the Spidey movies up till now. So what comes next, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But just want to say
sorry, just to make a bit of carnage trying to figure out what could come next.
Yeah, that's gonna be. But anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at the Alec Thorn. You can follow James on Twitter. He is at James C. Portis 3. You can follow Ian on Twitter. He is at Kal-El Data. You can follow our podcast on Twitter. We are at LOTE_podcast. You can follow On Comics Ground on Twitter, which is at On Comics Ground. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us here on Twitch. And of course, you can check out our website where we post daily reviews and news about all things comics and pop culture. So once again, thank you all so much for joining us and being on this road to Far From Home. We will see you all again in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Take it easy, folks.